Stopped counting the days lost in the rhythm.
Brazil has sunk a decommissioned aircraft carrier in the Atlantic Ocean despite concerns expressed by environmental groups that the aging warship was packed with toxic materials. The planned and controlled sinking occurred late in the afternoon, on Friday, some 350 kilometers off the Brazilian coast in the Atlantic Ocean, in an area with an approximate depth of 5,000 meters, Brazil's Navy said in a statement. The decision to scuttle the 6-decade-old aircraft carrier, São Paulo, came after Brazilian authorities had tried in vain to find a port willing to welcome the vessel. Though defense officials said they would sink the vessel in the safest area, environmentalists attacked the decision, saying the warship contained tons of asbestos, heavy metals and other toxic materials that could leach into the water and pollute the marine food chain. Intentionally sinking the toxic aircraft carrier São Paulo would equate to a state-sponsored environmental crime. Built in the late 1950s in France, whose navy sailed the aircraft carrier for 37 years as the Foch, the warship had earned a place in 20th-century naval history. The São Paulo took part in France's first nuclear tests in the Pacific in the 1960s and saw deployments in Africa, the Middle East and the former Yugoslavia from the 1970s to 1990s. Brazil bought the 266-meter aircraft carrier for $12 million in 2000. A fire that broke out on board the ship in 2005 accelerated the vessel's decline. Last year, Brazil authorized Turkish firm Sak Denizcilik to dismantle the São Paulo for scrap metal. But in August, just as a tugboat was about to tow it into the Mediterranean Sea, Turkish environmental authorities blocked the plan. Brazil's defense ministry said in a statement on Wednesday that the dismantling plan for the ship represented an unprecedented attempt by Brazil to safely dispose of the ship through environmentally sound recycling. Brazil then brought the aircraft carrier back home but did not allow it into port, citing the high risk to the environment. In view of the facts presented and the increasing risk involved in towing, due to the deterioration of the hull's buoyancy conditions and the inevitability of spontaneous/uncontrolled sinking, it is not possible to adopt any other course of action other than jettisoning the hull, through of the planned and controlled sinking, the ministry said.
Below zero wind chills hammer the northeast as extreme cold weather moves in. More than 20 million people in the Northeast will continue enduring a brief, yet life-threatening, cold spell this weekend as temperatures feeling well below zero are delivered across the region. The wind chill warnings and advisories encompassing all of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island and Connecticut are likely to continue through Saturday morning. Nearly all of the state of New York and northern counties in Pennsylvania are also threatened by plunging temperatures. Until higher temperatures arrive Sunday, officials across multiple states have urged the public to hunker down indoors and open shelters and warming centers to provide some aid to those who need it, particularly for vulnerable groups experiencing homelessness. Our state is facing dangerously cold temperatures and extreme wind chills today and tomorrow, Governor Kathy Hochul said Friday morning on Twitter. We are coordinating with local officials to ensure they have what they need to keep New Yorkers safe. Please limit time outdoors, wear layers, and use caution with alternative heat sources. The dangerously cold winds are descending on the region from Canada, putting entire states at risk. Ground blizzard conditions and heavy blowing snow are expected today through Saturday across open areas. Please to not drive if you don't have to, the Weather Service in Caribou, Maine, said. Maine State Police shared photos of deteriorating road conditions in Aroostook County on Friday and warned drivers that any area across the state with open fields and snow can expect periods of blinding whiteouts. One of the beauties of the county is open fields and views, but on days like this they become a hazard. Drive safe. What looks like safe and normal driving conditions quickly deteriorate into almost zero visibility stretches of roadway, Maine State Police said in a Facebook post. In addition to the blizzard conditions, parts of northern Maine on Friday night felt as cold as -69 degrees, with many other areas seeing their winds feel as bitterly cold as between -35 degrees to -50 degrees, according to the Weather Service in Caribou. Wind chill records are not historically tracked as closely as temperature records. But the mark would beat other lows set. Freezing temperatures this week have not only affected the Northeast. Farther south, severe cold weather also led to ongoing power outages across Texas and Arkansas as an ice storm lashed the region, killing at least 8 people. About 150,000 homes and businesses in Texas were still in the dark early Saturday, stemming from multiple rounds of ice, sleet and freezing rain that made roads deadly and weighed down trees, also causing them to break and take down power lines. In Arkansas, more than 35,000 homes and businesses were experiencing outages early Saturday, according to the tracking site Power Outages. Amid the ongoing dangerous cold in the Northeast, New York City issued a cold blue Friday evening, the city's Department of Homeless Services said on Twitter. The designation generally indicates temperatures have reached an extremely low threshold that requires them to make resources available to the public. Under that code, people may use the city's homeless shelter system on an emergency basis and directs New Yorkers to report people on the street as a safety measure. No one who is experiencing homelessness and seeking shelter in New York City during a code blue will be denied, a spokesperson for the department said. New York City is forecast to see single-digit temperatures, with the coldest point coming Saturday morning at 8 degrees and winds could feel as cold as 7 degrees below zero. Homeless outreach teams will be talking to any New Yorker on the street and offering them warm shelter, the city said Friday in a tweet. Warming centers have also opened across Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Vermont, officials said. In New Hampshire, where the coldest winds could feel as low as 40 degrees Fahrenheit below zero, Cannon Mountain Ski Resort in Franconia and Wildcat Mountain in Gorham have closed due to the severe cold, according to their Facebook pages. Similarly, several ski areas turned away customers and shut down operations in Vermont on Friday.
Iowa Alzheimer's Care Facility is fined $10,000 after pronouncing a living woman dead. The sign for Glen Oaks Alzheimer's Special Care Center is seen on Google Earth. The facility pronounced a living woman dead and is being fined $10,000. In early January, an Alzheimer's care facility in Iowa pronounced one of its residents dead. But when funeral home staff unzipped her body bag, she was in fact alive and gasping for air, according to a citation from the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals. The 66-year-old woman, who was named in the report, was admitted to the Glen Oaks Alzheimer's Special Care Center in Urbandale, Iowa, in December 2021. She had diagnoses including end-stage early-onset dementia, anxiety, and depression, according to the document. She went into hospice care at Glen Oaks on December 28, 2022, with senile degeneration of the brain and was administered lorazepam and morphine for comfort, the report says. At 6 a.m. on January 3, a nurse was unable to find the resident's pulse, and she didn't appear to be breathing, according to the report. The nurse notified the family and hospice nurse, who in turn notified the funeral home. Another nurse and the funeral director, who arrived to pick up the patient around 7:38 a.m., also reported no signs of life. About 45 minutes later, funeral home staff unzipped the bag and found the patient's chest moving, and she gasped for air. The funeral home then called 911 and hospice, the document says. Emergency responders found the woman breathing but unresponsive. The patient was transferred to the emergency room for further evaluation, then returned to Glen Oaks for continued hospice care. The patient died early in the morning on January 5 with hospice and her family at her side, the document says. Based on interviews and records, the report found that Glen Oaks failed to provide adequate direction to ensure appropriate cares and services were provided and failed to ensure residents received dignified treatment and care at end of life. The facility is now facing a $10,000 fine. Glen Oaks was unable to comment by phone and did not immediately respond to an NPR email request for comment.